Hello, I'm Chris McClure, and this is Module 12 for EDL 852, a case study about who should create the school's vision. I'd like to start by establishing the facts. Lightville is a small rural district with two school buildings, an elementary school for grades K-6 and a junior-senior high school for grades 7 through 12. Lightville has seen an increasing enrollment for the past 25 years, and recently the school board began looking at options to accommodate that growth. While working with an architectural firm, the superintendent, Joe Rawlings, identified three possible solutions: an addition to the junior-senior high building, an addition to both existing schools, or a new middle school, which was the most expensive option. The community was split on which was the best option. Eventually, the board supported Superintendent Rawlings' recommendation to build a new school, and voters passed the initiative 53 to 47%. Then, from a list of 22 applicants, the school board selected Susan Potter, who is currently serving as a suburban middle school principal, as the new principal for Lightville. She began working for Lightville 12 months before the school was to open. The superintendent tasked her with three objectives. One, hire a new staff, which was the easiest of the tasks because most of the teachers that were already teaching in the 6 through 8 classes applied for positions at the new school. Second was to organize the school's programs, and she involved the current staff in a lot of that decision making since they had been there and were familiar with it. And then third was to work with the architect and construction managers, and this was primarily for equipment and furniture decisions. Superintendent Rawlings and the board helped Principal Potter assemble an advisory committee consisting of herself, 4 middle school teachers, and 4 parents. Although the committee believed that Principal Potter should chair the group, she preferred not to. But they acquiesced and chose an English and social studies teacher, Helen Burke, as the chair. As the advisory committee began to discuss school philosophy and vision and mission statements, Principal Potter had an opposing view from most of the committee. She believed that everyone on the committee should have input when developing a philosophy, especially since they have been part of the community and she is new. She doesn't want to be the sole creator or dictate what is best for the school and community. She doesn't want to be an autocrat or have her decisions merely rubber stamped. While she did present guidelines for the committee, she did not provide any data or research to suggest group norms to follow. Helen Burke believes that Principal Potter is the expert and should craft the vision statement. She thinks that having added input from committee members will slow down the process. She prefers that Principal Potter take the lead and promises that the committee will help her along the way. No one has been harmed, and there are no apparent legal or ethical issues, although, as is possibly more common in smaller communities, family ties could create conflict. So Principal Potter and most of her advisory committee disagree on the steps they should take when developing the new school's philosophy and mission and vision statements. What vital information may be missing? From a people perspective, as stated in the advisory committee guidelines that the group agreed to, Principal Potter advised that all stakeholders be given an opportunity to suggest elements of the vision and to react to elements proposed by others. While it may be a longer process to gather input from the entire committee and community members, it will produce a more substantial and representative vision that reflects the values and beliefs of Lightville. Principal Potter may also want to know why the one member abstained from voting. The superintendent and Board of Education should also be involved in finalizing the vision. In relation to place, I think Principal Potter and the advisory committee should look at examples of vision statements from the Lightville Community District Office and from the other two existing schools, as well as any potential statements within the community. For programs, some potential missing facts or missing information. Principal Potter mentioned to the advisory committee that she would have questions specific to the community involving extracurriculars and academic integration. She might also have questions about their grading practices or the current standard for promotion to high school. Having as much information about the values and priorities of the community will help Principal Potter and the advisory committee create a statement that embodies the entire district's beliefs. Susan Potter, who has been hired as a new principal for an as yet unbuilt middle school in a rural area. One of her first tasks is to work with the advisory committee of 4 parents and 4 teachers to develop a vision statement for the school. Principal Potter does not want to lead the committee, nor be the sole creator of the vision, as opposed to most of the committee who would prefer that she create the vision and then they would provide input after the fact. Principal Potter, using data and appropriate publications, needs to convince the advisory committee members of the importance of a collaborative vision statement with input from all applicable stakeholders. So here's how I would like to think that I would handle the situation. At the first meeting, I would have taken the advisory committee leadership role, and I would have stressed the importance of a shared vision and goals. I would have described the process we were going to undertake, but stressed that input from each member was fundamental to the success of the group and consequently the school. We would also have implemented some group norms. I would propose surveying all relevant stakeholders to better understand their beliefs and opinions. I would hold a meeting for any community member interested in sharing their views on what is important to the community. I would also have informal conversations around the community to get a better sense of what they hold dear. At the next advisory committee meeting, we would work to create a vision statement. This draft would then be submitted to the superintendent and Board of Education for approval. If changes were suggested, we would work to incorporate those into our vision statement at our next meeting. If approved, we would begin to publicize the vision statement and have it added to all of our stationery and displayed throughout the school, working with the architect and design managers or construction managers. So with my plan, I derived 3 pros and 3 cons. My first pro of the plan is that I involve all stakeholders. Virtually every inhabitant of the Lightville School District will have an opportunity to contribute. Next, our statement will reflect the values and priorities of the community as a whole and not just a group with close ties to the school. And third, we will have used data and a defined process to articulate our statement. Some cons to the plan include trying to incorporate too many opinions. I won't be able to get the opinion of every community member, and allowing all of them to submit their opinions might be too much of an undertaking. But we might spend too much time then finalizing that vision statement due to the volume of opinions. And then lastly, some community and advisory committee members may be put off by what they perceive as a lack of leadership on my part by asking too many opinions. If the advisory committee is an indication from the case study, the community may feel that I am not performing my role adequately. While I still prefer to survey stakeholders, I recognize that getting proper feedback will require asking the right questions. Some time will definitely need to be spent wording the survey suitably. And while some surveys can be sent electronically, there would still be an expense and a time lag to gauge the opinions of every person in the district. Processing the surveys would also take a substantial amount of time. One thing I did not include was student input. I would not include the students in the decision-making process. I do not feel that 11 to 13-year-olds would understand the significance of the statement, nor desire to have input into the process. So to implement my plan, prior to the next meeting, I would have a private conversation with Helen Burke and explain that I understand why she wants me to lead and that I would be doing just that. At the advisory committee meeting, I would also offer to expand my role and share my beliefs and knowledge about developing a vision statement. I would provide data and research to back up my decisions while expecting each member to contribute equally. I would also establish group norms like transparency and trust to help us optimize our effectiveness. I would then recommend that we design a survey to electronically and physically send to community members. I would schedule a time to hold a town hall to gather input. I would also travel the district to meet with community members and ask their opinions. Once we feel like we had received all the survey results we were going to, or a time limit had passed, we would draft a vision statement from the input from those surveys and also from the committee members. We would then send it to the superintendent and consult with him to see if he had any suggestions. We would further then send it to the school board, and we would get approval from, not form, the school board. And then if they had suggestions and we needed to modify it, then we would do just that, take those suggestions and modify it, still keeping the main concepts and the main text of the vision statement. And then, like I mentioned before, we would add that vision statement to all of our stationery and display it as much as possible around the school. In conclusion, there's my standard correlation, dealing with vision statements and mission statements, the impact on students and staff and the community, how it is relevant to my potential being a building leader and some things that I will need to do to continue to progress towards that, and then the reflection about how it has helped me to hopefully become better and better prepared to become a school leader. Thank you.